The rain had just started to fall when Emma Collins stood by her living room window. Watching the drops slide down the glass like tears, she didn't want to shed any more. It had been 3 months since her husband, Daniel, packed his bags and walked out the front door of their small suburban home in Portland, Oregon. 3 months since the laughter had faded from their kitchen. 3 months since everything she knew about love had come crashing down. She told everyone she was fine, but she wasn't. Every night, after putting away the dishes and folding laundry that no one seemed to care about anymore, she would sit on the couch and stare at the empty spot where Daniel used to sit. The memories haunted her, his voice, his smile, the way he once held her hand and promised forever. But forever had turned out to be shorter than she imagined. It was her son, Noah, who noticed her pain the most. He was only 21, young, quiet, and thoughtful. A college student who suddenly had to grow up too fast. The moment his father left, something inside him shifted. The boy she once knew became a man overnight. "Mom, you don't have to pretend," Noah said one evening as they shared a late dinner of grilled cheese and tomato soup. His tone was gentle, but his eyes carried a depth she hadn't noticed before. "I know it hurts." Emma smiled faintly, trying to mask the ache in her chest. "I'm okay, sweetheart. Really, I just need time." But Noah saw through it. He saw the exhaustion, the quiet heartbreak, the way she barely touched her food anymore. And that night, after she went to bed, he stood in the hallway, staring at the closed door of her room, whispering softly, "I'll take care of you, Mom. I promise." The days that followed felt different. Noah started waking up early, making coffee for her before she even got out of bed. He began fixing things around the house, the leaky faucet, the loose kitchen handle, even the old garden fence Daniel had ignored for years. At first, Emma thought he was just keeping busy, but soon she realized he was trying to fill a void the one Daniel had left behind. One morning, she came downstairs to find fresh flowers on the kitchen counter, white lilies, her favorite. "Where did these come from?" she asked, surprised. Noah shrugged with a small smile. "Thought you could use something beautiful to look at." Her heart melted. It had been so long since anyone had done something that thoughtful for her. She felt something warm inside, not romantic, but comforting. A sense that maybe, just maybe, life hadn't completely fallen apart. Weeks passed, and slowly, Emma began to smile again. They cooked dinner together, watched old movies on the couch, and sometimes stayed up late talking about anything and everything. One night, as the fire crackled softly in the fireplace, Emma turned to him and said, "You remind me of your father when he was your age." Noah looked at her for a long moment. "I don't think I want to be like him." The room fell silent. Emma swallowed hard, unsure what to say. Noah continued, "He gave up to ice." "You don't give up, Mom. You keep going, even when everything hurts. I admire that." Emma's eyes welled with tears. She reached out, placing her hand over his. "You've grown into such a good man, Noah." He smiled softly, and for a brief moment, something unspoken filled the space between them, a quiet understanding, a connection that went deeper than words. But life, as Emma knew, never stayed simple for long. One afternoon, while she was at the grocery store, she ran into someone she hadn't seen in years, Ethan Parker, her old high school sweetheart. He was older now, with silver at his temples and a kindness in his eyes that felt familiar. They exchanged polite smiles, and before she knew it, they were talking like old friends. "Still living in Portland?" he asked. "Yes," she replied, surprised at how natural it felt to talk to him. "Things have changed a lot, but I'm getting by." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. "I'm glad. You always had this light in you, Emma. Don't let anyone dim it." His words lingered in her mind, long after she left the store. That evening, she caught herself smiling while setting the dinner table, a rare feeling these days. When Noah came home and saw her in such a good mood, his face softened. "What's got you smiling like that?" "Oh, nothing," she said quickly, but her blush gave her away. Noah didn't push, but as he watched her hum quietly while cooking, something inside him stirred, a strange mix of pride, protectiveness, and something he couldn't quite name. Later that night, as rain tapped against the windows once more, Emma found herself sitting on the couch again, staring at the flickering fire. She thought about Ethan, about how icily he had made her laugh after all this time. Then she thought about Noah, how he had been her rock through the hardest months of her life, how his presence had filled her loneliness in ways she never expected. For the first time in a long while, her heart felt confused, torn between gratitude and something unspoken, something she didn't dare name. And just as she began to drift into thought, Noah's voice came softly from behind her. Mom, can we talk? She turned to see him standing there, his eyes serious, his voice low. Her heart skipped a beat. Of course, honey, what is it? He took a step closer, his face half in shadow, half in firelight. I need to tell you something. Emma's breath caught. The warmth of the room suddenly felt too heavy, too still. What is it, Noah? She whispered. He hesitated. And that silence felt like the calm before a storm that neither of them saw coming. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of rain against the window. The fire crackled softly, throwing amber light across Emma's face as she waited for Noah to speak. He stood there for a long moment, hands in his pockets, as if trying to find the right words. Finally, he took a deep breath. Mom, he said softly, I know I've been trying to keep things together since Dad left, but there's something I've been feeling, something I don't really understand. Emma frowned gently. What do you mean, sweetheart? He looked down, avoiding her eyes. It's just, I don't want you to be sad anymore. Every time I see you hurting, it feels like I failed you, like I wasn't enough to make things okay. Her heart twisted. She stood up and walked over to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. Oh Noah, you've done more for me than you'll ever know. You didn't fail me, you saved me. He looked up, his blue eyes meeting hers, full of emotion. Then why do I still feel like I can't let you go? For a second, Emma didn't breathe. She didn't fully understand what he meant, but she could feel the weight behind his words, a deep, aching bond between two people who had been through too much together. She smiled faintly, choosing kindness over confusion. You don't have to let me go, honey, we'll always have each other. But as she spoke, she could feel a strange shift inside her, an awareness of how grown he'd become, how much strength and quiet care he carried now. The boy who used to lean on her was now the man holding her world together. Over the next few weeks, life began to change again. Emma started meeting Ethan for coffee now and then. Their conversations were warm, easy, a soft reminder that love could still exist in her world. He made her laugh, asked about her writing, even helped her fix the broken light on her porch one Saturday afternoon. But every time Ethan left, she'd find Noah watching her, not coldly, but with a distant sadness in his eyes. One evening, as they sat at the dinner table, Noah finally asked, Are you? Seeing him again, Emma froze for a moment, her fork halfway to her mouth. Ethan, he's just an old friend, Noah. He nodded slowly, but his jaw tightened. He seems to make you happy. He's kind, she said softly, and after everything, I think I need that. Noah pushed his plate away and leaned back, his voice calm but quiet. You deserve to be happy, Mom. I just hope he knows what he has, if you let him in. His words were tender, but they lingered like a question she couldn't quite answer. Later that night, Emma sat by her window again, watching the lights from the neighboring houses flicker through the misty rain. She thought about Ethan's warmth and Noah's silence. She wanted to move forward, to believe she could still love again. But a small part of her hesitated, afraid that opening her heart again might somehow change what she already had. The closeness she and Noah had built. That's when she heard a soft knock at her door. Mom, come in, sweetheart, she said. Noah stepped inside, wearing a worn gray hoodie and a look that told her he'd been thinking too much. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for how I acted at dinner. I didn't mean to sound upset. Emma smiled, her heart softening. It's okay. You've been through a lot too. He sat on the edge of her bed, his voice low. Sometimes I feel like if I let go, everything will fall apart again. Her eyes glistened. Nothing's going to fall apart, Noah. You've held us together long enough. It's okay to breathe again. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air felt thick with years of unspoken emotion, love, loss, fear, and something deeper that neither dared to name. Then suddenly the sound of a car pulling up outside broke the silence. Headlights flashed through the curtains. Emma's heart skipped. That must be Ethan. He said he'd stop by to return my umbrella. Noah's expression shifted, something unreadable flickered across his face. He stood up quickly. I'll get it. Before she could say anything, he was already gone. Downstairs, she heard muffled voices, Noah's quiet tone, Ethan's polite responses. Then silence again. When she came down, Ethan stood by the door, his smile slightly awkward. I'll see you tomorrow, Emma. Good night. And just like that, he left. Emma turned to Noah, confused. What happened? He shrugged, avoiding her eyes. Nothing. He just wanted to drop it off. But the tension in the air told her it wasn't nothing. Something had shifted again, something delicate, uncertain. And as she stood there in the dim light of the hallway, watching her son walk away without another word, she realized the story of her heart wasn't finished. It was only just beginning. The night after, Ethan's unexpected visit felt heavier than usual. The rain had stopped, but the silence inside the house seemed louder than thunder. Emma lay awake in bed, her mind racing through the words, the glances, the moments that had passed too quickly to understand. Down the hall, Noah's light was still on. She could see it glowing softly beneath his door. For a long time, she considered knocking, but something stopped her. She wasn't sure if she wanted to know what he was thinking, or if she was afraid she already did. The next morning, Emma tried to bring back normalcy. She brewed coffee, made pancakes, and greeted Noah with a tired smile. "Morning, sweetheart," she said, her voice bright, but her eyes weary. He nodded, sitting at the table. "Morning, Mom." For a while, they ate in silence, the only sound being the gentle clinking of forks against plates. Finally, she broke it. "About last night." "You don't have to explain," Noah interrupted, still not looking up. "I think I do," she said softly. "Ethan and we're just friends. Maybe someday it could be more, but right now, I'm just learning how to live again." Noah's hand tightened around his mug. "I get it, you deserve someone good." "Then why does it sound like it hurts you to say that?" she asked quietly. He looked up then, his eyes tired, honest, and a little broken. "Because it's hard to watch someone else make you smile when I've spent months trying to do the same." Emma froze. The words hung between them like fragile glass, shimmering, dangerous. She whispered, "Noah." But before she could say more, he stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. I need to clear my head." He grabbed his jacket and walked out the door, leaving Emma standing there, her heart pounding with confusion. The hours that followed felt endless. She tried reading, cleaning, even baking, anything to quiet her thoughts. But every few minutes, she'd glance at the clock, wondering where he'd gone. By evening, the sun dipped behind gray clouds again, and the world outside turned golden blue. That's when she heard the front door open. Noah. He walked in slowly, drenched from the drizzle, his hair wet, his eyes softer now. "Hey." Emma rushed to him with a towel. "You'll get sick out there," she scolded gently, drying his hair like she did when he was a boy. He smiled faintly. "You still worry too much. You still make me," she replied, half laughing, half sighing. They both stood there for a moment, too close, too quiet. The air between them carried something new. Then, as if realizing it at the same time, they both stepped back. Emma turned away, her heart unsteady. "You should change into something warm. Dinner's almost ready." That night, after the dishes were done and the house grew quiet again, Emma sat by the fireplace with a cup of tea. She stared into the flames, lost in thought. Ethan had called earlier, asking if she'd like to go for a walk tomorrow. She'd said yes, partly because she wanted to, partly because she needed to remind herself that she still could. But as she sat there, she couldn't stop thinking about Noah's words that morning. "It's hard to watch someone else make you smile." Those words had come from somewhere deep, somewhere tender. And it scared her, not because of what he felt, but because she didn't know how to protect him from it. The next day was bright and calm. Autumn leaves covered the sidewalks in shades of amber and red. Ethan arrived right on time, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Ready for our walk?" he asked warmly. Emma smiled and nodded. "It's a beautiful day." They walked through the park, talking about simple things, the changing weather, his work, her plans for the holidays. It felt peaceful, until she noticed Noah sitting on a nearby bench, watching them quietly. Her steps faltered. Ethan followed her gaze and gave a small smile. "That's your son, right? Good kid. You're lucky to have him." "I know," she said softly. "I really am." But as she watched Noah stand and walk away without a word, her heart ached. She wanted to call out to him, to explain that her happiness didn't mean he'd lost his place in her heart. But he didn't turn around. That evening, when she got home, Noah wasn't there. His car was gone. His room, spotless. For the first time since Daniel left, the house felt empty again, not because of absence, but because of the silence that came with it. Hours passed before she finally heard the sound of the front door. He came in quietly, his expression unreadable. "I went for a drive," he said simply. "I was worried," she whispered. He looked at her for a long moment, his voice calm but filled with something heavy. "Mom, I need to figure out what I'm feeling. I don't want to hurt you, and I don't want to stay confused." Her chest tightened. "Then talk to me, Noah. Whatever it is, we'll get through it." He shook his head slowly. Not tonight. He turned and walked upstairs, leaving Emma standing alone in the living room, the firelight flickering across her face. For a long while, she just stood there, torn between guilt, love, and fear of what the next day might bring. But as the clock struck midnight, she heard his footsteps coming down the stairs again. Mom. Her heart jumped. Yes. Noah stood there in the dim light, his voice quiet, trembling slightly. There's something I didn't tell you that night when Dad left. Emma turned slowly, her breath caught in her throat. What is it? He looked at her, eyes full of the secret he'd been carrying for months. I think that's when everything changed. The room was still, as if time itself was waiting for Noah to finish what he'd started. Emma's heart raced as she looked at him, her son, her strength, the one who had held her together when everything fell apart. What do you mean, Noah? She asked softly, her voice trembling. He took a breath, his hands tightening at his sides. That night Dad left, I saw you break in a way I'd never seen before, and something inside me changed. I told myself I'd never let anyone hurt you again. Emma swallowed hard. You've always been protective, honey. You've done so much. He shook his head gently. It's not just that, it's more than that. The fire flickered in the silence that followed. Emma didn't speak. She could in single quotes. Noah continued, his voice low but honest. You were the one holding everything together for so long. Mom, when Dad gave up, you didn't. And I guess I started seeing you differently after that. Not just as my mom, but as someone. Strong, brave, beautiful. His words hung in the air, tender but complicated. Emma's eyes softened, though her heart was unsteady. Noah, what you're feeling, it's natural to be close after what we've been through, but we can't let pain confuse what love really means. He nodded, looking down. I know. I just needed to say it out loud, because keeping it inside was tearing me apart. She stepped closer, her voice gentle. You didn't do anything wrong, sweetheart. Love takes many forms. What matters is that we keep it kind and pure. Noah looked up, his expression filled with both relief and sorrow. I don't want to lose what we have. You won't, Emma promised. We'll always have each other, but we both need to heal in our own ways. The next few days felt like a quiet truce between the heart and the mind. Noah spent more time out with friends, taking walks, trying to breathe again. Emma focused on her job at the library, where the scent of old books and quiet afternoons helped her think clearly. One evening, she found Ethan waiting outside the library, holding 2 cups of coffee. Thought you might need this, he said with a warm smile. She smiled faintly. You always seem to show up at the right time. They sat on a bench beneath the streetlight, the autumn air cool and soft around them. Ethan talked about his daughter, about the years he spent alone after his divorce, about how life had a strange way of circling back to people who once mattered. Emma listened quietly, her heart slowly settling. There was something healing in Ethan's company, gentle, uncomplicated, honest. At one point, he looked at her and said softly, You deserve peace, Emma, not just survival peace. And for the first time in a long while, she believed that might be possible. When she returned home that night, Noah was sitting on the porch, looking at the stars. Hey, she said quietly, setting her purse down. He looked up and smiled. Hey Mom, mind if I sit? He shook his head, and they sat together in the cool evening air. The silence between them wasn't heavy anymore, just calm. I saw Ethan today, she said after a moment. I figured, he replied, a faint smile tugging at his lips. You look lighter. She chuckled softly. Maybe I am. Noah nodded slowly, staring out into the night. I think I'm starting to understand things better now. Sometimes when you lose something like Dad, or what we had before, you try to fill the space too fast. But maybe it's okay to just let it be empty for a while. Emma turned to him, proud and deeply moved. That's very wise, Noah. He shrugged, smiling softly. Guess I learned from you. For a long moment, they sat in peaceful silence, mother and son. 2 people who had been through heartbreak and were still finding their way. But peace never lasts forever. A week later, Emma received a call from Ethan. His voice was tense. Emma, I just wanted you to hear it from me. I got offered a job in Seattle. I'm leaving in a few days. Her heart sank. Seattle, that's far, he finished. But it's a good opportunity. I don't want to go without saying goodbye. That night, she told Noah about it. He listened quietly, then asked, Will you see him before he leaves? Yes, she said. Tomorrow. He nodded, but there was something in his eyes, not jealousy this time, but sadness. You deserve to be happy, Mom. Even if it's somewhere else. She smiled faintly. Happiness isn't a place, Noah, it's the people you carry with you. The next evening, she met Ethan at the old coffee shop downtown, the same one where they'd first reconnected. They talked, laughed a little, and when it was time to say goodbye, Ethan reached for her hand. I don't know what the future holds, he said gently, but I'd like to think this isn't the end. Emma's eyes glistened. Neither do I, maybe it's just another beginning. He smiled, leaned forward, and gave her a soft, respectful kiss on the cheek. Then he walked away. As she watched him disappear into the night, she felt something inside her finally settle, like the closing of one chapter and the quiet promise of another. When she got home, Noah was waiting by the window. He's gone, he asked softly. Yes, she said, her voice steady, but it's okay. Some people come into our lives to remind us that love doesn't have to be perfect to be real. Noah nodded, standing up, and some never leave at all. She looked at him then, really looked, and felt an overwhelming warmth. Not confusion, not conflict, just gratitude. For everything you've done for me, she said. Thank you, Noah. You gave me strength when I had none. He smiled faintly. You gave me a reason to be strong. They stood there in the quiet, the soft hum of the night around them, two souls learning, healing, and finally, beginning to let go of the past. But as Emma went to bed that night, she couldn't shake the feeling that something else was coming. Something that would change everything once again. And she was right, because the next morning, she woke up to find a letter on the kitchen counter. The morning light spilled gently across the kitchen floor when Emma saw it. A neatly folded letter resting beside her coffee mug. Her heart skipped as she recognized the handwriting. Noah's. For a moment, she just stared at it, afraid to open it. Something about the way it was placed, careful, deliberate, told her that this wasn't just a note. It was a goodbye. With trembling hands, she unfolded the paper. Mom. By the time you read this, I'll probably be on the road. Don't worry, I'm not running away. I'm just finding my own way. For months, I've built my world around you because I was scared. Scared to lose you. Scared to face the world without feeling like I had to protect you every second. But you've taught me that love doesn't mean holding on. Sometimes it means letting go. When Dad left, everything changed. I thought I had to become the man he couldn't be. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that I'm still allowed to live my own life too. I need to learn who I am, not just who I became because of pain. Please don't cry. You've given me everything, love, strength, and hope. Now it's my turn to find my place. And I promise, when I come back, I'll be the kind of man you can be proud of. Not because I stood in his shadow, but because I finally stepped into my own light. I'll call you when I get there. Always, Noah. Emma pressed the letter to her chest, tears falling quietly, not from sadness, but from the ache of love only a mother could understand. She walked to the window and saw his car was gone. The driveway was empty, the world suddenly quieter, but deep down, she knew this was right. He needed this. They both did. Days turned into weeks. Emma went back to work, filled her evenings with books and walks by the river. She started painting again, something she hadn't done in years. Every brushstroke felt like a small piece of healing. Sometimes she would catch herself talking to the house, to the quiet. He's going to be okay, she'd whisper, as if reminding her heart to believe it. And then one crisp Sunday morning, her phone rang. Mom. Her heart leaped. Noah, where are you? He laughed softly on the other end. Montana. I've been camping with some friends from school. It's beautiful here. You'd love it. Emma smiled through her tears. I'm so proud of you, sweetheart. There was a pause. Then his voice softened. You were right, Mom. Sometimes you have to let go of the past to see what's ahead. And I think I finally can. When the call ended, Emma stood by the window, watching the autumn leaves fall one by one. The world felt open again, not empty, but full of possibility. A few months later, Christmas came. Snow blanketed the street in soft white silence. Emma had just finished decorating the tree when she heard a familiar knock on the door. She opened it, and there he was. Noah stood on the porch, smiling, a travel bag over his shoulder and a light in his eyes she hadn't seen in a long time. Miss me, he teased. Emma laughed, tears spilling freely now. Every single day. They hugged, long and tight, not from sorrow this time, but from joy, from growth. As they sat by the fire later that night, sipping cocoa and sharing stories. Noah looked around the cozy living room and said softly, You know, Mom, I think we both made it. Emma smiled, her heart full. Yes, she said, we did. And as the snow fell gently outside, the firelight dancing in their eyes, Emma realized something beautiful. Love didn't leave when Daniel did. It had simply changed its shape. It lived in the strength of her son, in the warmth of new beginnings, and in the quiet courage it took to start over. She had lost a husband, but found a deeper kind of love, one that would never walk away. The end.